Alright. I missed this. I wasn't able to stream last week since I was a bit sick. But now I can, so we can continue Fallstreak. It's been about 2 weeks though, so I've forgotten a lot of things, to be honest. So let's see. Let's try to remember everything. I guess the game started with what's her name? Adelise? I probably forgot all the names too. But Adelise, right? Her being stuck in a golden dream and how she remembers everything in said dream and whatnot, right? And it's like pretty strange. And then for most of the game or most of the visual novel, we hang out with most of our friends in the world of Sokotrine, and we learn that Sokotrine is a world like isolated with mist. You know, this weird supernatural mist that prevents anyone from leaving. And we learn its history as well. The fact that it started out as a aristocracy, like feudalism, right? That was the word I was trying to remember the first time I heard about, how Sokotrine came to be. It started out as like a feudalist society, right? But then some foreigners came from the mists, which is weird, and a revolution started, and they bought modern technology, and they took over Sokotrine technically, and the world was brought with like superior technology and stuff, right? That's how we learn about Sokotrine. And then what else? Then we learned like some weird experiments going on in the government, and also the Lyric twins. We kind of focus on them for a bit, and for some reason, Tristan's mother, one of the Lyric twins, tried to kill him or whatever. I don't know, but there's some connection with a handkerchief he held that's connected to that said incident. And then we could do a little like flashback, I guess. It's not a flashback of twins themselves, but it's a flashback to his to their mother, apparently, who was like a weird like psycho killer, like serial killer orphan girl who had a best friend named Mallory, and shit happened and a lot of murder happened. But then they became moms and had a happy family or whatever. And that is until the fire of collapse came, right? Is it called the fire collapse? I always call it the fire of either collapse or calamity, something like that. It starts with a C. Where prismatic fire came raining down, and that shit was bad, And so, like, I guess most recently in the story, the fire collapse was just happening, and then they murdered a lot of people, and I forgot her name, but the mom, and Emani, right? Is it Emani, something like that? Saved Tristan, and the dad, Atun, also saved Kalia, right? But not without taking some, I guess, some injuries as well. I guess it's how Tristan became mute, and it's how Kalia lost her arms. And it's such that they got back home, and Atun and Kalia were still suffering from the effects of the fire, apparently. Some weird like cursed symbols on their wounds or something. And so Mom became Knife Mom again. She took out the knives again and went exploring into the ruins of Sokotrine to see what this fire collapse is doing to everyone, and what's going on and stuff, right? That's where we last left off. And this is just a summary, like just from myself, so I remember what's happening as well, right? I think that's correct. Anyway, let's get back to it. Okay. In contrast to yesterday's chaos, a somber silence has laid claim to the hazy morning air. The situation had changed since yesterday. At some point, the inextinguishable fire had dissipated all at once, ending just as abruptly as it had begun. Only the smoldering remains it left behind could be seen now, I'll check up on Mallory first. Yeah, I was wondering what happened to Mallory. I mean, I assume she dies, because technically, again... excuse me. Again, this is technically a flashback, you know? And we don't see Mallory anywhere in the future. Or future, or present. I don't know, it's kind of weird now, because we're jumping back and forth. Yeah, I assume Mallory dies. And again, Em and I apparently tried to murder Tristan. Still don't know the details about that. Happened in, like, the bottom of a well? Who knows? Let's see. Though it takes longer than usual to get to the Basia household with all the debris, I arrive without complication. While the house appeared to be untouched, many of their neighbors had been less fortunate. I find Mallory in the streets, kneeling over a victim she seemed to have pulled from the rubble. Okay, so she's not dead. We just haven't heard from her. I think? I don't know if we ever met Mallory as Adelise. Anyway. Mallory. Though I call out to her, she doesn't respond. It is only when I place a hand on her shoulder that she turns to face me. Amy. Glazed, hollow eyes that gazed through what they were supposed to focus on. Every person I had passed on the way had looked the same. The fire. Iodon. Or Iodon? I keep saying no, because his name reminds me of Iodon? That's not correct. That's like a name of a... What is it? I think it's a chemical or a mineral? I don't know. Iodon. Fire. Iodon. Burn marks. Circuitry. D.I. Where's Iodon? Did he survive? I pull her together by giving her something specific to focus on. But Mallory shakes her head. One of his colleagues came by and... I don't know what to tell the children. Okay, so her husband is dead apparently, I assume. Well, there's no need to tell them now. Worry about that later. How are the children's conditions? They're inside. Alouette hurt her leg, but other than that, she's okay. Lynette and Dia, though. I'll show you after I finish treating this man. Though her hands were trembling, she doesn't stop bandaging the wounded man before her. It was like a desperate attempt to remain moving, as if she'd collapse under the pressure if she stopped. It was a way of averting one's eyes from reality. Forget it. Give up on him. If you insist on trying to help, then conserve your energy for someone who has a chance of making it. A ragged avulsions splitting the femoral, limbs entangled at impossible angles, and copious amounts of blood. It was clear from a glance the man was already at death's door. Mallory hunches over and closes her eyes as her body shivers to a halt. For a moment I worry she'll restart her mindless act. You're right. But then she rises to her feet, determination filling her eyes. Let's head inside. A house painted over with silence. It was not long ago that laughter filled these halls. Guided by Mallory, I make my way to the room the children are in. Upon entering, a pitiful scene greets me. Laid out on the bed were Lynette and Dia, their bodies disheveled and bandaged, their breaths short and ragged. At the other end of the room, Alouette was sitting against the wall in a state of stunned silence. Her leg was injured, as she didn't look capable of moving, but fortunately she didn't appear to be burnt anywhere. Have you noticed, Mallory? Yeah. The burns won't stop spreading. Yeah, same thing that's happening to Atun and Kalia. The rainbow fire did this to them. Rainbow fire. The burns were even more extensive than Kalia and Atun's. Several parts of Dia's back and face seemed afflicted, while burn marks were scattered over almost a third of Lynette's body. I'll find a way to save them. Mallory's eyes widened under my declaration. How? Information is the first thing we need. I'm going to scope out Action Nuis. Action Nuis? I don't know how you say that. Action Nuis. What is that? If anyone knows anything about the Rainbow Fire, it's the ULs. ULs being, I'm trying to remember, like the foreigners who came from the mist, right, I think? Amy, are you sure? I won't fail. Callie and Atun are in the same situation, after all. That's not what I mean. You're always like this. You always try to bear everything by yourself. It worries me. I just want you to know you have allies. Lean on me. Let me help. No. You shouldn't come. I might turn dangerous and you'll only slow me down. Amy. You can help by stocking up on supplies. I also left Atun and the twins at home. I don't know how long I'll be gone, so I want you to check up on them. It still looked like she had something to say, though. I want you to believe in me, Mallory. Trust me. I clasped her hands. Okay. Just be careful, alright? Promise me you won't do anything too reckless. I promise. The two of us entwined pinkies like the old days. A pinky promise? We'll get through this, okay? Yeah. I'll be off then. As I turn to leave, my eyes catch on Alouette, standing in the corner of the room. Though she said nothing, her face spoke for itself. It was as if she was lost in a sea of uncertainty. Before I knew it, I find myself drifting over to her. Maybe it was because she reminded me of a certain someone, but somehow I felt a desire to not leave her alone. Alouette. I place a hand on her shoulder. Auntie. The adults are going to be busy from now on. We need you to watch the house and take care of Lynette and Dia while we're gone. It's an important job, and you do it. She nods back at me, her expression regaining a bit of color. Alouette will do her best. Giving people a responsibility in crisis forces them to compartmentalize. Compartmentalize? The feeling that one had some control over the situation. It was an essential illusion. Please make Linny and Dia better. I will. Eyes full of innocent hope. With that image burned into my mind, I set off towards my next destination. Chennuis, I still don't know how to say that. It's a state-of-the-art hospital, okay, that's what it is, that had been renovated with the latest of UL technology. Actually, if I remember correctly, once what we learned from the history lesson of Sokotrime, that the ULs, again the foreigners from the mist, I believe, what does UL stand for again? Like unknown landers or whatever, something like that? The unknown lands? They did have some technology to handle, some of the injuries that happened, or some of the, like, casualties from the fire of collapse, but it wasn't enough to save everyone, but they apparently had some knowledge of the fire itself. For many in Sokotrime, it stood as a symbol of hope. It had served as the forefront of the Valorian Master's successful campaign to eradicate the plague, after all. As expected, scores of people had already gathered in front of the main entrance. Slowing my pace, I drift through the crowd, catching bits of conversation as I pass by. Heard? Seems they already know a way to treat the burns. Something similar happened back in their homeland. Calling it the Fire of Collapse. Yeah. I know, but why did it have to just blow out the other day? If about 20 people entered through the... Come back yet? Apparently a cure already existed. That seemed too convenient to be true, though. Heeding my intuition, I make several rounds of the perimeter and commit the layout to memory. It seemed victims of conventional injuries were being accepted at the side entrances, while only those with deviant burns were being admitted through the main one. Why is security so tight? Squads of Sokotrani Guard? Is that the adjective version of Sokotrani? Sokotrani Guard were stationed everywhere. Even the surrounding streets were heavily fortified. Considering the dire straits of the rest of Socotrine, it was odd they had mobilized such manpower here. Yeah, again, it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but maybe... Did the government have a hand in creating the fire collapse in the first place? Maybe? They were doing some strange experiments, right? Or maybe they just simply knew that it happened before in their homeland. Who knows? As I finish a rotation around the complex, I overhear a commotion at the main entrance. Why can't I go in? My little boy is in there! We've already made this clear to you. Entry is prohibited to all but patients and medical personnel. Please, I just want to know if he's doing alright. Wait, is that them? Oh, look, they're coming out! The crowd stirs as a column of people emerges from the hospital. All of them were scarred with the etchings unique to the rainbow fire. However, their burns look different, don't they? They're really cured. Something wasn't right, though. Of the 20 that had supposedly gone in, only around half had returned. What do you mean? Can't you just cure him like the rest? The mother from before was shouting frantically at the doctor accompanying the treated patients. Please understand, your son's injuries were very extensive in comparison. He's in critical condition, and as such we need to continue monitoring. Why won't you listen to me? He's such a skittish boy, waking up in a place he doesn't know, surrounded by strangers who'll be so scared. That's why I need to be there for him. I'm sorry, ma'am. Why are you apologizing? Just let me in. Let me see him. The mother pushes past the doctor and tries to enter the hospital, only to be held back by the officer from before. Stop right there. Let me go. My son is in there. Ah. The officer clutches at his wrist as the woman flails wildly under his grasp. She bit me. Unsheathing the sword, he slams his hilt against the woman's head and drives her to the ground. Oh no. But even then, she doesn't stop trying to enter. How many times do I have to tell you before you get it through your head? You can't go in! Enraged, the officer begins to kick and stomp the crawling woman mercilessly. Let me see him! Let me see him! The woman breaks into a sob as she tries to shield herself from the crushing blows. Nell! 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 Nell? Nell? Is that a familiar name? Again, it's been 2 weeks since the last time I went through the visual novel. Nell. Maybe? Was it the same person who was, like, under the secret experiments from the government? Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, I don't know. Shut up! Shut up! Wow. Police brutality! Oh no! The officer brings his foot down hard, silencing her as she tries to call out a name. But why is the... Well, I mean, this is very suspicious in itself. Like, why is the guard trying so hard to stop everyone else from entering? Again, probably government secret experiments going on right now. Stop it! With an angry growl, the officer's partner grabs him by the collar and shoves him away. But the woman had already been rendered motionless in the dirt. What the hell you think you're doing? I can't stand people like her. They act like they're the only one hurting in the world. Okay, that's an interesting line actually. They're the only one hurting in the world. You know, this... I was thinking maybe he was like, you know, part of the conspiracy of the government, and he's doing his job. But maybe it's also because he has his own reasons for letting the government do as they please. You know? It makes me sick. Turning his back on the woman, the officer spits into the dirt. You can't take it out on other people. And also, why is officer spelled differently? Why is there like a weird O for this guy? Is he a special officer? Many of them are going through the same thing, you know. Guard? Oh well, guard and officer are different. I guess in the text they were referring to the guard as officer as well, but officer and guard are two different people. Take a break and cool off. I'll get someone to cover. Doctor, Can we get her a stretcher and take her through the side entrance? Yes, I'll get someone on it right away. Meanwhile, a palpable tension had built up in the onlooking crowd. How could he do that to her? Are they hiding something? Why can't we go in? The guards on post tighten their formation as they bear the brunt of the crowd's resentment. Attention! All victims suffering deviant burns from the fire collapse, please line up in an orderly fashion. Stretchers will be provided for the incapacitated. For the remainder of the day, I continue to observe the hospital's activities. However, the same trend only continues to persist. 30 people would enter, but only 14 would exit. 40 would go in, but only 20 would return. Like clockwork, the cycle repeats, again and again. Again and again. So it's come to this. Entrusting Kalia and Atun's lives to odds I didn't understand was unthinkable. There wasn't anything else I could discern from outside, though. If I wanted to learn more, I would have to infiltrate the building, okay? Knife Mom is also like a super thief spy. Kalia and Atun were getting worse by the day. Atun's burn spread had already extended up to his forearms, and Kalia wasn't faring much better. That reality weighs down on me as I make preparations to infiltrate the hospital. After smearing a layer of soot over my left arm, I wrap it up in bandages. Okay. So I thought she was gonna like Metal Gear Solid into the hospital, you know, but actually she's just pretending to have a burn herself so she can be a patient. That's kind of dangerous though, right? Because then you're putting yourself in danger because you're not knowing. It's either like again, they're keeping the patients for some whatever reason, or maybe they're just keeping them there to actually cure them because it actually does take longer to save them. Probably not though, because why would they have this much security then? You know, then actually, this might be the reason why she ends up killing Tristan, or well, trying to kill Tristan anyway, because things are gonna happen in the hospital. Well, let's see. Having observed their system several times already, I had determined that only a basic preliminary check was given at the entrance. Though they'll probably look more intensively later, I'll already be inside by then. Upon completing my masquerade, I line up in the next wave of patients. When it comes to my turn to be inspected, though, the doctor seems a bit wary. Did that hurt? He asks after poking my full wound. I didn't feel anything. Thinking quickly, I answer in a way that seems unintuitive. Yeah, normally you would say it would hurt. Are you sure you touched me? But maybe because these are really strange burns, maybe it does like numb everything? Go on ahead. The doctor nods before turning his attention to the next patient. So I guess we kind of learned something by accident. Areas marked by the rainbow fire seemed to lose all feeling after all. It was only when the deviant burn spread that the victim experienced pain. I had learned that much from observing Kalia and Atun. Oh, okay. After passing the entrance checkpoint, our group gets cleared to enter. Okay, we're in the hospital now. Several details stand out to me as we're led deep into the building. Though it sounded like there was significant activity in the distance, the area we were being led through was utterly empty. Even security detail was absent. It seemed the guards weren't authorized to enter this area. Moving around will still be difficult at this rate, though. After being brought to a large junction, individual nurses began taking us one by one into separate rooms. The nurse assigned to me was wearing a surgical mask and had an average build. After leading me into a checkout room, she closes the door behind us. A raised stretcher, a counter with a faucet, and a closet. Perfect. Okay, ma'am. Could you please remove the bandage on your arm and show me your burn? She begins preparing a syringe on the nearby counter. What's in the syringe? Oh, this is a mild relaxant meant to calm you down before the procedure. It'll just be a little... After finishing her preparations, she tries to turn around, but I don't let her. Uh-oh, knife mom! I grab her by the wrist and press down on her shoulder blade, pinning her against the counter. What are you? Twisting the syringe out of her hand, I wrap my arm around her neck and cut off her circulation. Maintaining the choke until she goes limp, I insert the tip of the syringe into one of her bulging blood vessels and press down on the plunger. You know, in a lot of media, it's easy to choke people and let them be unconscious, but actually cutting out circulation, for one, can lead to long-term brain damage, and two, can also still kill someone accidentally, right? Well, anyway, mild relaxant was an understatement. I had known from the beginning the sedative was intended to knock out the patient. Right, isn't that like a hospital trope? Hospital cliche? They just fill you up with sedatives, and then bad things happen. After all, none of the mended victims outside have been able to describe the treatment process. I guess we deduced that from looking at the other patients. They had all said they'd fallen asleep and woken up cured. After stripping the nurse of her uniform, I tie her up using the cravats I find in the closet and gag her using the bandage on my arm. Oh, are we Agent 47? Disguising ourselves as a nurse. Then I place her in the closet in the recovery position, wash the suit from my arm, and don her uniform. Complete with mask and cap, it served as an excellent disguise. So far, everything had gone as planned, all according to Keikaku. But from here on out, I'll have to improvise. Bringing my ear to the door, I try to gauge the situation outside. It isn't until several minutes pass that the general bustle begins to pick up. Choosing that moment to act, I enter the hallway. Upon exiting, I find myself amidst a stream of nurses carrying stretchers of the deviant burn victims. In addition to being rendered unconscious, the patients have been stripped naked, exposing their injuries to plain view. I begin moving down the hall. Glancing to the rooms as I pass, I spot a lone nurse at the head of a stretcher. As if it were completely natural, I step in and grab the other end. 3, 2, 1. The nurse counts off before lifting in sync with me, just blending in 100%. Letting her take point, we join the flow of traffic outside. Now this one's a really young one, isn't she? Though it goes well initially, the nurse suddenly starts speaking to me. Oh no, social interaction. Yeah. I respond ambiguously as I look down the patient on the stretcher. It was as the nurse said. The girl could have been much older than Kalia, yet she was missing a leg, the deviant burn having spread over nearly half her body. I have a little girl just like her back home. The nurse falls silent, her gaze locked straight ahead. I hope she isn't flagged. Flagged. How ominous. Flagged. A term that could only carry one meaning. The people who live, and the people who never leave this hospital, maybe. It was as I thought. The hospital was triaging its patients. My eyes drift down to the girl despite myself. Perhaps due to the nurse's influence, I can't help but see Kalia's image in the girl's light brown locks and weakly shut eyes. Everyone makes the same face when they're struggling to hold on to life with all they have. Though I want to avert my eyes, for some reason I feel compelled to look. After rounding several corners, we enter a large open area where we're directed to lay the stretchers down in a grid-like orientation. Taking my place among the line of nurses gathering on one end of the room, I watch on as a pair of important-looking people enters the area. You're certain there's no other way, Director? There's no doubt. It's identical to the 12th calamity that ravaged our homeland. A silver-haired woman with an air of authority was discussing something with the chief of Sokotrani Guard. We can't save more than half of the afflicted. There must be some kind of mistake. Surely there exists UL technology that can treat it? The deviant's burn cannot be treated by medical science. Not even amputation or debridement is effective. It is a death sentence that spurns the laws of the world. That we are able to save half his fortune in our homeland never knew. Before we established this method, the case fatality rate was 100%. I see. I understand now why you're so quick to take the initiative. A clipboard-toting assistant runs up to the duo. Why is it 50% though? Maybe it's because... well, let's see. Continue as planned. The subordinate nods and dispatches a group of doctors to inspect the patients lying on the ground. One by one, the doctors examine the patients before attaching colored tags to their stretcher. Black, red. Black, black, red. There remains a problem, though. What do we tell the people? They are beleaguered and battered, and their frustration continues to grow by the hour. We may see violent protests if we continue to keep them in the dark. We alone shall shoulder the truth. If a riot occurs, you have clearance to suppress it through any means necessary. Nearly our entire force has been mobilized here, but I fear even that may not be enough. There is no need for alarm. It is a last resort, since they are poorly suited for non-lethal mass suppression, but the lost children are stationed here as well. They are currently carrying out patient acquisition operations at the moment. You even have a system for abducting non-compliant victims, huh? For the sake of saving as many as possible, there's no cross we will not bear. We'll go any lengths towards that end. That is the burden of surviving what we did back in our homeland. If this is the path we must take to save as many as we can, that is all we will do. The Secretary Guard will ensure operations in Actual News are not hindered. Wounded people, scattered by upheaval of sudden calamity. When forced to confront the reality of their helplessness, they will search for release. Something, anything, that gives them a means to resist their powerlessness. There's a fire that cannot be doused. It will be forbidden from challenging the source of its frustration. Its flames will simply aggress in another direction and consume something else. You can't mean a scapegoat. That happened often back in our homeland. If a scapegoat is created, do not try to save them. We made that mistake in the past. It is not something that bears repeating in Soko Shrine. Let them have their scapegoat. That is how deep the pus runs in people's hearts. Do you understand? Yes. Having finished her business with him, the director proceeds deeper into the building. The classic, the ends justify the means. Have we had enough sacrifices already? Hunching over warily, the chief departs from the room. Before long, the doctors finish their examinations and the head nurse signals us forward. I find myself gravitating towards my previous patient, where I find the same nurse from before. Lifting the stretcher up, I begin following a stream of nurses only to stop short from my partner's resistance. Black doesn't go this way. Letting her take point, we join a different procession of nurses heading deeper in. The ones with missing limbs are always flagged after all. Oh, well, that doesn't look good for Kalia. Huh, even though I knew that. Several ramps later, we arrive at the metal underground room divided by a partition. And I assume the red ones get cured. The ones that are flagged with the black tags, I guess. Well, I guess they're being used as sacrifices to develop that cure. Not develop, but to, I guess, fuel the cure, maybe? And that little, speech about the scapegoat, you know? It could probably be like a double meaning. It's like they're mentioning satiating the masses, but also satiating the fire itself, you know, symbolically. Probably they have to remove the little, I guess, deviant burns from one victim to the other, right? And probably the sacrifices end up being those burn victims, I guess. Being those, well, no, how do you say it? Being those, I guess, scapegoat? That's not the correct word, though. I mean, just sacrifices, right? They're the sacrifice so others may live. And those are the That's the judgment this director has made. I guess several factors go into it, such as if the victim is missing limbs, then they're automatically a sacrifice, apparently. There, we're directed to lift and place the patients on the other side. Upon completing our task, the majority of the nurses start to leave. However, my partner doesn't budge from her spot. A departing nurse places a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to watch." But my partner shakes her head. I don't want to look away from what we're doing. When preparations are complete, a woman with steely grey eyes enters the room. It was the director from before, accompanied by her clipboard-touting shadow. "Begin." At her command, a click resounds through the room. A deep rumbling begins to fill the air. Beyond the glass, the air starts shimmering as several sections of steel will flare up. The room was heating up. Did they intend to cook the patients alive? That's, this probably has some unfortunate implications here, the way it's presented. Anyway, unable to do anything but look on, my eyes drift over to the girl I had carried here. That's when I notice her beginning to stir. "Somebody's moving in there!" Someone cries out in horror as I notice as well. The girl sits up. She looks at her hands. Then, she begins to scream, loudly, at the top of her lungs. As the intense heat envelops her, the deviant burns her hands begin glowing brightly before surging up her body at an accelerated rate. Shocked silence grips the room as the girl collapses and begins weakly crawling along the floor. She doesn't make it far before her body is consumed and she crumbles into glittering dust, but she continues screaming until the very last moment. At my side, I hear a hollow thump as my partner falls to her knees. No. I couldn't have botched the injection, could I? I guess, everyone in this hospital knows what's going on. And I guess, it's not, I thought they were doing, experiments, but I guess, I don't know how the timeline works, but maybe they have already stopped doing the experiments. This is more so just saving as many people as they can. And I guess what they're really what the nurses are really horrified about is the fact that not so much that they're killing the patients themselves, but more so that the sedative didn't work as planned. Because I guess normally when they do this whole fire thing, they would be asleep the whole time, but this one wasn't. Unfortunately, couldn't have botched the injection, could I? It was as if the room had been traumatized into silence. At long last, the rumbling stops. Hissing sound fills the air as the chamber begins venting. And I assume burning to death is probably one of the most painful ways to go. So, Director, why can't we terminate the patients before doing this? Yeah, they have to be burned alive too. The deviant burn does not spread on cadavers. Or cadavers? Cadaver? I don't know how to say it properly, but basically, corpse does not spread on corpses. Only when it finishes consuming a living subject is estes vitae produced. Okay, basically, that's how they actually make the cure itself. I can't do this anymore. Please, no more. We are already short on staff. Even with everyone working around the clock, there are many that are lost due to our sheer lack of manpower. You know this already. This is the burden those in this post must bear. From now on, ensure you follow protocol and adjust the dosage properly for pediatric patients. Nothing remained of the people beyond the glass but vaguely shaped piles of glittering dust. And using the correct amount of sedative is actually pretty important, because using too much, and then you end up killing the patient, and using too little, and then it doesn't actually work at all, right? Unfairly and without warning, their struggle had ended, and I assume, the dosage wasn't enough. Oops. I watch on as the dust swirls and coalesces into tiny orbs, one for each person that had been inside. Okay, so there were several people inside. When the room finishes cooling, we are directed to enter and collect them. Yeah, I thought it was only one girl, but I guess, yeah, there were several people. The remains of the girl I had carried here. I paused before them and kneel down. The ones with missing limbs are always flagged. Okay. This is interesting. How does Kalia survive then? Probably... Well, Emanite probably does something. If I bring Kalia here, this is what will become of her. This is how she will end up. The others as well. There's no guarantee they wouldn't be flagged. Yeah, we don't know exactly why some people get flagged and others don't. I assume like chances of survival maybe, but who knows. There's no other option. When no one's looking, I wrap 4 of the stones up in my handkerchief and secure them on my person. Okay, so 4 of them, one for each of her family, husband, son, daughter, maybe herself as well. Though I wonder, did she get burned? I can't remember if she got burned or not. I don't think she got burned herself, right? She was only pretending to get burned? I don't know. You know, in which case she could use those stones to save, Mallory. Yeah, Mallory's, like, children, right? Dia and Lynette. She could use those orbs to save them as well. And I think, I don't think Tristan was burned either, so I think, yeah, she's using them to save, Atun, Kalia, Lynette, and, Dia, right? Dio, kono wa Dio da, no, When no one's looking around, she steals stuff. Even through gloves, they had a nauseating feel to them. The skewed ratio of those that returned, the unusually tight security, and the system of designating red and black tags. Everything made sense if these were the key to curing the deviant burn. But even upon learning the truth, my objective had not changed, right? Because, you know, her friends and family, that's the most important thing to M&I, so that's who she's gonna save, even if there is sacrifices. My next course of action, escape. Time to sneak out. I keep my eyes straight ahead as I traverse the halls of Sokotrine's main hospital. Though exiting through a side entrance would have been ideal, they had been thorough in sealing the area off from the rest of the hospital. Time was of the essence. Rather than waste time looking for a way out of the unfamiliar structure, I decided to escape via the main entrance. Kalia, Atun, Lynette, Diamond. Okay, so Diamond, that was his name. I held it. The key to saving them. Their lives, their futures. It was an unbelievably heavy weight. But even then, I won't falter. I'll carry it all. Forward. Forward. The entrance was already in sight. Just a little more. Exiting into the outside world, I find that night is set to descend before long. All I have to do now is pass through the checkpoint. Though freedom was within reach, I control my gait with rigid discipline. Just as I'm about to escape, though, Attention all radios, halt all personnel attempting to leave the grounds. A reverberating voice breaks the glass lock on my heart. Use of force is authorized. I stop in place. I think, yeah, the person she choked out, I think, was found out. The world felt like it had gone deathly still. Hey, you, stop right there! A fragile balance. Without hesitation, I was gonna say run for it? As he reaches out, I snatch his hand and dip, twisting his wrist back in one fluid motion. Shatter that balance. My steel flickers across his eyes as I bring him to his knees, blinding him. Knife Mom! Gah! Streamers of blood chase after me as I dash off, bobbing and weaving through the crowd of onlookers. Get her! Get out of the way! Screams and shrieks pierce the air as the guard detachment mobilizes to give chase. Having committed the layout of the area to memory, I knew that the closest array of allies was to my right. Or allies. Once I break free of the throng, I make a beeline for it. As I pass through the mouth of the alley, my ears catch an order being issued from behind. East perimeter come in. Suspect is heading in your direction through the alleys. They're wearing a nurse uniform and armed and hostile. Intercept them! After making several turns through the convoluted alley system at full speed, I cut down on my momentum and honed my hearing. The sound of pounding footsteps. Positioning myself behind the next corner, I waited till my target is on the verge of passing, before leaping from the shadows with a high-angle feint. Caught off guard, he lifts his sword over his head to try and parry the full attack. But before our blades make contact, I drop down and close in, pressing his elbow up to prevent him from bringing his blade to bear. Wow, I wonder, how she kept up her blade skills or knife skills until now. I guess, I guess I'm so used to her when she was as a kid, like a psycho killer orphan. She was pretty good with a knife. But I guess during the revolution as well, we didn't really see much scenes of her, of M&I, surviving the revolution and beyond that. But I guess she's been doing this her whole life, so she's still got it. Knife mom still got it. Tracing a tight arc through his gullet, I plunged past him and started running in the direction I'd come from. However, I find their coverage to be tighter than expected. I was getting boxed in. Eyeing a door at the end of the alley, I rattled it, only to find it locked. It appeared to be an old spring-loaded mechanism without a bolt. Slipping my knife into the door slit, I pry the jam striker plate as far away from the frame as I'll go. Then, wedging a throwing knife into the keyhole, I yank around in an attempt to cause as much damage as possible. When I hear a telltale clatter, I draw back and kick at the area next to the doorknob as hard as I can. The door swings open as the wood gives in, and the lock falls apart. Footsteps on my 6. Someone was almost right on top of me. Leaping inside, I grab the door and swing it backwards with all my might. Rather than flee further in, though, I stand my ground. The moment the door swings open for my target's barreling figure, I whip a throwing knife at his face. Ah! My target stumbles as the knife sinks into his eye socket. That's gotta hurt. Before he hits the ground, I step in and around his sword, my blade flashing through his carotid. Trolling away to the sound of arterial spray, I press deeper to the visibly abandoned house. I think M&I is increasing her wanted level a bit too much here. But I guess she's got to do what she has to do to survive. Beyond one of the windows was an open area. I snap the rusty fastenings open and dive outside as the sound of pounding footsteps echo through the building. As I roll back onto my feet, I retrieve a throwing knife and hurl it at the window as my pursuers try to follow. A cry of pain rings out as their lead doubles over, temporarily blocking the exit point. 2 throwing knives left. Locating a series of alleys leading away from the open area, I take off with due haste. Escape was imminent at this rate. I scoped this area out thoroughly beforehand. However, several turns later, I come to a crushing halt. I had forgotten to take something into account. A wall of rubble that must have fallen from the surrounding unstable building was blocking my path to freedom. Though I try to double back, I find myself cornered. It was an area in the process of clearing away debris, so there was few escape points. In that case, I'll have to fight. 3 enemies. Careful, she's dangerous. The guards ready their swords as they fan out to encircle me. Acting before they can completely surround me, I launch myself at one of the guards on my flank. Watch out! However, it's only a feint. As at the sound of footsteps behind me, I twist and whip a throwing knife at the second guard as he rushes forward to cover his comrade. The knife lances into his arm, causing his sword to fly out before him. Reversing my momentum, I snatch the sword out of the air and sink it to his owner's neck as I drop back. I crouch and spin away as the third guard slashes a wide arc at my head. Anticipating a remise on my hind side, I slide and kick off the wall before me, crossing my opponent up as he lunges forward. As I do, I hurl my final throwing knife into the back of his knee, crippling him as I roll onto my feet. Man, Knife Mom is a badass. On my right, detecting an oncoming attack from the first guard, I twist and try to parry. However, the angle goes off, and not being thrown off balance by the overpowering strike. That split second I knew. I couldn't evade the next attack. Resolving to take the blow, I lunged forward in a desperate counterattack, gouging into my opponent's throat as the base of his blade cleaves into my flank. Oh no. Crushing pain spiked through my body as I pull free and stagger away. I only managed several steps before collapsing, though. Damn you. As the last remaining guard limps over to me and raises his sword, a final desperate surge of energy grips my body. I deny it. Gripping my knife by the blunt of the blade, I muster all my remaining strength and whip it skyward. A cacophony of sound fills the air as the pulley system lifting rubble overhead gives. Oh, how convenient. Though my target senses the debris plummeting towards him, due to his injured leg, he's unable to avoid being helplessly crushed. Having dove away to avoid the carnage, I pull myself through the dust until I reach a wall. Oh. How many people has she killed today? Like 5? 6? I guess. I mean, compared to the kill count she's had since birth, I mean, it's not that impressive. Man, Ammonite has killed so many people. I don't know. Well, she's kind of not like a good person, to be honest. Kind of like a sociopath. I mean, I guess that's the idea. She cares, like, about the people close to her, but otherwise, everyone else, yeah, she murders without hesitation, really. Using it to support my body, I force myself to my feet despite the searing pain. Oh, then again, she has been softening up, as an adult. She didn't murder the nurse immediately. She choked her out instead. And I guess I remember the school teacher, I think she was a little bit hesitant on leaving the school teacher behind as well, but I think, well, actually, did she? Well, I think she actually did kill the school teacher. I can't remember. I think she did, actually, yeah. But it was more like a mercy kill rather than, her actually wanting to kill. Anyway, using it to support my body, I force myself to my feet despite the searing pain. I need to get away from here. I gotta get back home. Sticky. Warm. Wet. Sticky, warm, and wet. Anyway, as I stumble down the street, I feel my organs try to spill out from under my hand. Yeah, she needs probably needs some first aid. Can't go to the hospital though, unfortunately. We caused quite a ruckus there. Sensing a large amount of footsteps, I hide myself in the shadows of a building. She came this way, didn't she? A group of people, bearing torches and impromptu weapons, were sweeping the streets. The rumors say she's been using her role as a nurse to steal the hospital's only way of curing the burns. Even though so many people need it. How awful. He's been diluting the salve and selling it at inflated rates in order to make a fortune. I heard it from someone she tried to sell to. How unforgivable. The kidnappings too. She must be behind them as well. How dare she exploit this tragedy in order to profit from our suffering? Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking, yeah. I mean, it's not entirely false. We are stealing some of the cures. But I guess it's blown out of proportion because probably the hospital is making us into a scapegoat, isn't it? We can't let her get away with this. We can't let her get away. Nani? What is this? A bloodlust so palpable I felt cloying was emanating from them. It didn't matter how true any of what they were saying was. It was like an echo chamber. Their wish for an enemy to direct their anger and frustration towards was so overpowering they were willing to discard even their rationality. Damn it. I won't be able to make it back at this rate. There are no places near here. When the mob passes, I dip into my dwindling reserves of strength and lug my heavy body to a certain beat-up building. Mallory and I had once called this place home in the past. Oh, it's the orphanage. I need to regain my strength and think of something. It's funny how the orphanage is still standing. Nudging the door closed behind me, I tumble to the ground as the pain's intensity overtakes me. Or is it the orphanage, or is it some other place? Can't remember. This is an old place they used to live, right? Footsteps and muffled shouts ring through the twilight outside as I try to control my ragged breathing. Unable to loosen my guard, I cling onto consciousness, causing time to stretch into an indeterminable haze. At that moment, the doorknob suddenly starts jangling. Uh-oh. Oh no. A shiver runs through my body as the door slowly swings open. It's... With trembling arms, I push myself off the ground. I need to fight. Even if I didn't have a weapon, I couldn't let it end here. Actually, I'm thinking, who else would know this place, though? Why would they be here? I need to fight back. Summoning the last of my depleted strength, I lash out desperately at the dark figure looming over me. However, my hand only brushes weakly against them. Amy? Well, good thing, yeah, I was thinking. It's probably Mallory. It's a good thing that Em and I didn't accidentally, slit her throat. Though I don't think, yeah, we don't have any knives anymore, I guess. Yeah, we already threw all of our knives away. Is that you? Amy! This familiar voice. Mallory? Why was she here? What happened? Who did this to you? She cries out in a hushed voice as she brings her face close to me. I messed up. The tension leaks from my body as I collapse to the ground. Pulling bandages and gauze from her bag, Mallory begins stripping me and applying first aid. Well, hopefully we don't die. As she tends to me, I lift my leaden arm and unwrap the handkerchief I have been holding close until now. These things, they're the way to cure the burns. Take them and go. After delivering that message, I let my arm drop back to the ground. I shut my eyes. Now, even if I died, it wouldn't be in vain. Kalia and Atun, Lynette and Diamond, with this, they'll be saved. Mallory? When Mallory doesn't respond, I force my eyes open. Amy, you baka! Her outburst stuns me into silence. I thought you promised. Why? Why do you always try to bear the weight alone? Mallory, you're always like this. Always leaving me behind, always trying to go somewhere by yourself. Don't you understand how scary and lonely it is? Wondering where you are? Wondering if you're safe? I hate it. Something hot and wet begins to drip into my bare skin. You know, I've been looking for someone all day. When I couldn't find them anywhere, I didn't know what to think. She's someone very dear to me, you see. We've been through so much together. But sometimes, she puts a wall up around herself, isolating herself and never letting me worry about her. Even though it hurts so much when she does that, I could never bear the thought of losing her, you know? When Mallory finishes dressing my wound, she begins doing something inexplicable. She begins stripping off her clothes and putting the uniform I have been wearing on. What are you doing? Dread begins to well up in the pit of my stomach as I realize what she's trying to do. Mallory! Mallory, what are you doing? Even now, the sound of voices and slamming doors was drawing closer. You're being chased. Her voice was calm and steady. Not even the darkness could hide her trembling figure. No! Don't act like the decoy. You'll probably die. I guess this is where Mallory dies. Oh no! Ignoring me, she starts dressing me in her original clothes. Those people have lost their minds. Or even if she managed to turn herself in, not even the guards will be able to protect her. I know. That's why we can't let them find you. Don't. Go. I grab her hand as she secures the handkerchief containing the cure back on me. Amy, for as long as I can remember, you've always been the one protecting me. I'm not as strong as you, or as clever as you. I mean, can we think of a better plan? I mean, I think the only clue they had was the fact that someone's wearing a nurse uniform, right? So can we just... I mean, I don't know, I guess we'd be naked, but since we don't have any other clothes, but it would be better than... Can we just take the clothes and just put it somewhere else, you know, or burn it or something? Then they would never know, right? Maybe? I don't know. But even I have things I want to protect. Idiot. What are you trying to protect with these hands that are shivering so much? Please, take care of my children. They're just like their mother, after all. Little crybabies that get lonely easily, but try to act strong. Mallory's smile was that stupid smile of hers. Her smile twists and clenches something in me. It breaks and burns me. Goodbye, Amy. No. I'll see you later. Her voice quavers as she slips free from my grasp, leaving my outstretched hand behind. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to stop her with every fiber of my being, but there's no longer any strength in my body. Even now, darkness was encroaching on my vision. No, stop. This is like a dumb idea. Don't do it. I mean, I can't think of anything better, but like, no. I try to push the darkness back because I'm thinking like, ideally you would need to burn the uniform, right? But we don't have any like sources of fire. We can't exactly go out, with the uniform, because then we'll probably get interrogated by the mob, and they'll see the uniform and think they're like, you're the culprit, and try to kill you anyway. So it's like, I don't know. If we try to hide the uniform, the mob will still probably find us eventually, and then they'll see the uniform somewhere hidden, and then they'll blame us and just kill us both if we do that. I don't know, maybe. But is this really the best way? Mallory acting as the scapegoat? I don't know. Oh well. I guess it's inevitable that she dies. Again, because we don't really see her in the present time. Stop. But unable to resist any longer, I sink into a deep sea. The image of her receding back burned into my eyes. Well, I guess, Lynette and Diamond, I assume they survive. Again, I don't know if we see them in the future, or in the present, I guess. But I assume they survive, and also Callie and Tristan obviously survive. Still don't get what exactly happened to, like, Emma to cause her to, like, go crazy? I assume she goes crazy, I don't know. Maybe it's because Mallory dies as well? Maybe that's the final straw that, snaps, Actually makes her go crazy and try to kill Tristan? I don't know. I don't know. For now, we're in a sepia dream, apparently. Are we back to the present, or are we still Emma and I having a nice dream? Who knows?